Baldur's Gate 3 came out a couple weeks ago, and before the release, I wasn't going to buy it on day one. The game looked great in previews, but there was just too much going against it. 1. I've never played D&D. 2. I don't know anything about Baldur's Gate 1 or 2. 3. I'm not that into CRPGs, with Dragon Age Origins and Wasteland 2 being the outliers. 4. I play almost all games on a controller. Despite all that, my friend's hype got to me, and I bought the game. And after 110 hours of gameplay, I have finished the game, fully played on a controller, and I wanted to share my thoughts of the experience, hopefully encouraging more people coming from my perspective to play the game, especially when the PlayStation release is just around the corner and the Xbox released hopefully in the near future. I'll start with more general thoughts on the game systems, story, structure and characters without big spoilers, and then move into the gameplay with focus on the controller experience and being a D&D noob. The game starts with the character creation, which honestly was the most overwhelming part of the game without any D&D knowledge, as the game is fully based on its rule sets when it comes to the stats, races, classes, combat and exploration. I did spend a bit of time on YouTube watching videos to get a better grasp on what class I might want to play and how the dice rolls actually work for the exploration, dialogue and combat. Special shout out to Wolfheart FPS, whose guides YouTube's algorithm recommended me, and I found those very helpful. There is a lot of choices you need to make during the character creation, but luckily there is an in-game way to respect your character later on. I ended up choosing a Wood Elf Ranger, as it sounded fun and simple enough for a noob like me. After the character creation and a short prologue, the game does just throw you into the world without too much hand-holding, which was a bit scary but also exciting. You meet your companions quite quickly, and for me that was really important as they provide much needed context to the story and other things are going around you.
Hello, I'm Gale of Waterdeep. Apologies, I'm usually better at this.
The companion system feels very familiar as a person who enjoys the modern BioWare RPGs, but Baldur's Gate 3 pushes the system forward as the companions have really amazing personal storylines with their own deep motivations, and the potential romances are the best video games have to offer. I'm sure you've all seen the post of how horny these characters can be quite early on in the game, but it really doesn't give up enough props to the actual wholesome relationships you are able to build during the game, and how the game reacts to you and your partner in different ways. The companions are elevated by amazing voiceover work, and I was also surprised how much actual mocapping they have done for the characters. Every line of dialogue is fully voiced, and the mocap brings so much life and emotion to the interactions. It's beyond incredible for a game this size.
Why do you insist on exhuming the past? I was a slave. A vampire spawn. Kept by the Tsar family. Perhaps I still am. I was never able to resist their commands.
Dialogue systems themselves were fantastic, with a lot of dialogue options that might make you be good or bad or anything between. I really love the flexibility of the choices, and unlike in combat or exploration where those dice rolls happen in the background, dialogue checks are presented with an actual visual roll of a dice, which made both the successes and the failures more intense. Balancing between choices I wanted to make and the choices I had the easiest time to pass with my stats sometimes came into the way, and I was not above save scumming until I passed a check on the dialogue line I really wanted to go with. And those dialogue choices really do matter. The story offers a lot of twists and turns during its 100-hour length, and a lot of those moments can be altered in many ways depending on the choices you do during the game. You never know when a decision in the first 20 hours might come back to haunt you 50 hours later. Of course, the possibilities are not endless, but I was truly impressed in the opportunities the game presented in both main and side quests. It was quite heartwarming to see a character I saved in Act 1 from a terrible situation to thrive and be happy in Act 3. It had no effect on the main story, but it does wonders to make the world feel alive. Other thing that really surprised me was how brilliant the game's structure is. The game is split into 3 acts, with each act serving the traditional storytelling purposes, but more interestingly, also switches the feel of the game around. The first act starts off the story. It offers a wide spread of things to explore in the wilderness, but the exploration is mostly blind, as you don't yet know the world or the context for anything you see, so you kinda go with the flow, learning the game systems and the world you're in. Second act switches things up and offers you 2 very specific areas to explore, with one of the areas offering a truly unique atmosphere. The exploration is more focused on the things happening in the story and kicking the story into a new gear. Then comes Act 3, when you finally reach the city of Baldur's Gate itself, and the game switches up once again. Long gone is the wilderness, and in its place is a densely packed city. You once again have a wide variety of things to explore, but unlike in Act 1, you now understand the world better, so you have the knowledge and the context to appreciate the things you explore more, which I found very satisfying. The different locations visually feel different, which keeps the game fresh throughout its long playtime. The game looks really good, but its graphical features are not anything mind-blowing, but the art style and the world feels well realized. The music and the audio design also help to create fantastic atmospheres. There is one song in Act 3 that has been stuck in my head, as the song itself was very good, but its implementation is amazing, as its mood and lyrics reflect on where you are in the story.
Which needs to send the steel watch through here, mop up all this riffraff. What about all those refugees?
I also love the small sound effect that happens when the game does a background roll in exploration or combat, giving you the feel that the dice has been rolled.
Glowing eyes are rarely a good sign.
And now we get to the part I promised, the actual moment-to-moment gameplay and combat, and how Larian Studios have done the impossible and translated all of the systems to be played on a controller. I started the game with a mouse and keyboard, as the game obviously was first designed for it, and I was scared how janky the control input was, but I quickly realized I can't play the game this way. For me, it is important to be able to kick back and chill when I play video games, and mouse and keyboard just does not offer the comfort I wish. So I switched to the controller mode. First thing that shocked me was that every aspect of the UI is different, depending on your input device. I was expecting slight changes, but almost everything is different. Controller UI does feel a bit bland and cheap compared to the traditional UI, which has all types of visual flourishes for different elements. But the controller UI is very functional, and you do get used to it very fast. There were some minor bugs that showed up in the controller UI and the game overall. Luckily I did not encounter anything game breaking or something a quick load didn't fix. My main gripe with the mouse and keyboard controls is the point and click exploration and the movement outside of combat. Luckily, playing with a controller switches that up, and you can move in the world with direct inputs, just like in any third-person action adventure game. Even in this mode, you are still able to switch the camera angle, so you can be right behind the character if you want, or move to a top-down view with a quick right stick movement. You can also quickly switch between characters and split or group your party by pressing the left trigger. But the thing I was afraid of most was actually interacting with objects in the world, as for mouse and keyboard it is as simple as point and click an item. Luckily, Larian has given controller players few different options to handle this. First, you can just walk towards an item, and if it highlights, you can interact with it. But if there are many items right next to each other, it might be difficult. So in that case, you can just stand and push the left stick to the left or right to cycle between those close items to choose the correct one. And if that is not enough, you can also press down A on Xbox or X on PlayStation, and you can do a scan of the immediate area, and then a list of interactable items shows up and you can choose the correct one from that. None of these are as intuitive as point and click, but after getting used to them I found it to be more than easy to interact with items, and ended up using all 3 ways depending on the situation. And as left click on mouse opens up a contextual menu for interacting with them, X on Xbox or square on PlayStation does the same thing on a controller. You can also click the left stick to enter a point and click mode, or click the right stick to quickly see all interactable items with their names, both of which I never had need for, but it's nice it's there. Access to inventory, spellbook, rest and stuff like that is handled by a radial menu accessed by the right trigger, which works well. But the inventory, well, the inventory is the biggest hurdle controller players need to overcome. The inventory UI itself looks nice, and for example comparing and equipping equipment has been made easy, but actually navigating the inventory can be slow and sometimes annoying. Throughout the game you will pick up tons of equipment, potions, spell scrolls and random junk. There are a few ways to sort the inventory by type, time or weight, but even then it's sometimes overwhelming trying to find that particular potion you want when you don't remember what the icon looks like, so you do have to slowly go through all of them. And with each party member having their own inventory, the problem might quadruple. One thing that is very nice about the inventory system is that you can use a potion even if it is in other party members' inventory, as long as they are not too far away from you, which alleviates some of the inventory annoyances. And here are a couple of great smaller features before I jump into the combat. You can enter jump mode with quickly clicking up on the D-pad, or you can equip a light sword by holding it down, which is helpful especially in Act 2. Holding down on the D-pad enters your party into the stealth mode. It's small things like these which makes me really appreciate the thought put into the systems. The combat also worked really great with the controller. The combat does go into a turn-based mode with the point-and-click systems, which was fine for me as I am more experienced with tactics-style games, even though my CRPG experience is not that deep. Every turn you can move a character a certain amount by clicking on where you want to go. Then you have an action and a bonus action. Unlike on mouse and keyboard, where you select your action from a menu on the bottom of the screen, in controller you open up a radial menu with left or right bumper. These radial menus have all your available actions. These menus can become a mess as you gain more and more abilities throughout the game, and your potions and scrolls are also there. You can modify these radials by moving abilities around and adding more radials, but it is a quite slow process, so I didn't bother with it. After choosing an action, then the game goes back to the point and click mode to choose your target. I actually found the targeting to be quite easy and intuitive in most situations, even with AoE spells, but sometimes you do have to battle the camera as you try to find the correct camera position to be able to target specific things, but I feel like I would have had this same problem even with a mouse. So the controller input for the combat was very good and enjoyable. I never really had any problems with it. Honestly, the bigger issue in the early game was actually understanding the dice rolls that go behind the systems, affecting how easy it is to land attacks and how much damage you do to the enemies, and vice versa. The game also offers a lot of creativity in the combat of how you can use the environment or different elements to dominate your enemies. You could, for example, throw a bottle of grease at the enemies and then strike the area with a firebolt, creating a larger inferno. So there are a lot of systems you can work with in the battles, but I highly recommend not trying to understand it all, because if you do, then it will be overwhelming. Even after 100 hours, there were still spells and abilities I didn't fully understand, but that's okay. And remember, there is an easy mode if you just want to focus on the story. After 110 hours, I finished the game and the credits rolled. Although the ending did not blow my mind, it was very satisfying, especially with some of the character choices I made throughout the way, and the game did leave me slightly heartbroken for a very specific reason relating to the amazing romance system in the game. The whole game was a truly exceptional journey, which I'm eager to do again in the future, which is very rare for me, as I usually can't replay these big games. I went in not knowing if I was ever going to play past the opening hours, but in the end Baldur's Gate 3 is easily my favorite RPG of all time, and most likely a top 5 game overall. It really was that special experience for me. So, should you play this game as someone who likes story-based games with lots of choices and amazing characters? If you have never played D&D? Yes. If you have no knowledge of Baldur's Gate? Yes. If you have no experience with CRPGs? Yes. If you only play games with a controller? Yes. Larian has managed to pull off an incredible feat of making the game really accessible without sacrificing depth or complexity, and that in itself should be celebrated. If you got this far, thank you, and I hope you found the review helpful. The game really was so good that it inspired me to write this review, which I have never done before, so all the feedback would be greatly appreciated, as I might want to do more of this. And press that like and subscribe buttons if you want to see more. Thank you, and have a nice day.